The day that I finally realized that I needed to get out was the day I felt like I was going to kill him. I think I got to that spirit of, when I got to that spirit of brokenness, when it just kind of said to me that you don't care about this person anymore either. If you're willing to go and grab for a knife or something, that means that you are capable of so much. And in that moment in time, it just literally was a case of, okay, fine. So if I do kill him, I go to jail. If he kills me, who's my daughter left with?
I've been lost far too long. I can't see, I'm trapped in darkness.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to 2021. I hope it'll be much better than 2020. Today, as you can see, I have another guest. Today, this episode is actually going to be split into two, and you'll see why. But I have an amazing guest today, and my guest today is Rethabile Hlalele, right?
Yes, but okay. But okay, yes.
But I mean, hey, you see, if I don't say Aussie, yeah. Okay, fine. I'll just say. So just for Thabi.
Thabi's fine.
Thabi, okay.
Yes.
So yeah, guys. Today's guest, her name is Thabi, and she's going to be sharing with us her story. And she's also going to be sharing with us some of her thoughts pertaining to things we can do to do better regarding GBV. So as you know, we have two shows. We have It's Normal, which is what today's show is going to be about, and then there is Doing Better, which is what is going to come up on Monday. And we're gonna record this all at once, but it's going to be split into today's show and Monday's show. So I really hope you enjoy, but more importantly, I hope you take something away from this. And yeah, let's get started. So Thabi, please introduce yourself to my wonderful viewers.
Your viewers, hello. Limo's YouTube viewers. I really am quite impressed with your YouTube channel, by the way. Well done on getting that started. Thabi is the name. I am a mother. I am a radio presenter. I am a child of God, and I am a domestic violence survivor. I always like to put it like that, to say that I'm a survivor, because a lot of people want to introduce me as a victim of domestic violence, which is not the case, because I survived domestic violence. That makes me a true hardcore survivor. And, so that's how I like to put it. But my story is where I'd like to, should I kick off from there, just literally where it all kind of started?
Yeah.
So I got married very young. I was 23 years old when I got married, and which was 16 years ago. So for a lot of people, don't look at me like that.
I wouldn't believe it.
Hey?
I wouldn't believe it.
You wouldn't. I know. I look childish. I act like a child. So that's why people struggle to like resonate with the 40-year-old that is about to beat me. Like, what? Yeah. So I got married very, very young. I fell in love with a guy who literally swept me off my feet. And I fell pregnant and we got married. But I think we did not take time to know each other properly. And I think we just kind of went with, the notion of, no, he's in that moment, we were happy with each other. So the pieces would come together. That's how I think we kind of thought things would happen. Anyway, very early into our marriage, because we got married on the 2nd of April, 2004. And on the 2nd of April, as I went to our new house, where we were to enjoy our lives together as husband and wife, was when, for the first time, he physically hurt me. We got into an argument, something really small, and I remember he twisted my arm out of socket, and not out of socket, it felt like it was going out of socket.
Yeah.
And it was pretty sore. And then later that evening, there was a woman who stopped by in the middle of the night to come say hi. And because she was so familiar with the house and familiar with his habits as she was coming to the house, it made it clear that I had two problems. I had a cheating husband, and I had a husband that was quite capable and able to hurt me physically.
On the first day?
Yes, of you are now Mr. and Mrs. So those are red flags. Those are red flags.
Whoa.
But let me tell you, when I dismissed those red flags as sorry, I might have made my husband angry, and I felt like it was my fault. I lay the responsibility on me. I shouldn't have spoken to him like that. But when the lady came, because Onaswabi, you could see he was embarrassed by the whole situation. It's like 2 a.m., you know, and he quickly sent her on her way. But for me, it was like, okay, at least I know now that he knows no longer to bring his girlfriends around. Maybe that was like his last booty call and his last one night stand. We are married now. I forgive him. We're on a new path. This is us, husband and wife. So we're good to go. We're starting on a clean slate. That's how I looked at it and I viewed it. And yeah, but that was just the beginning of things to come, you know? And gradually my daughter was born. And after she was born shortly after she was born was when we had another altercation. The first one, I was 7 months pregnant, right? So the second one was now when she had just been born. I think she was about 2 months old. I just come back from Zambia. I had a competition that I was DJing. And we had our second altercation. But again, it was one of those things where I felt maybe I was responsible. So again, like a lot of women do, and I did, was always to take responsibility for whatever fights or altercations we might have had. Like I just assumed that if I didn't speak to him in that manner, then maybe he wouldn't have reacted that way. I need to learn to numb my tongue. And what he would do is he would, after a situation like that, following day, things are tense in the house, right? Then it would be a question of, okay, so do you want to go shopping? Like, so he would woo me with, let's go shopping in Bloom, you know, like, yay, you know, and then all would be kind of forgotten. And not because I need a pair of shoes to make me feel good after you hurt me, but, you know, it was just, for me, it was his way of saying he was sorry, because he was not a very articulate person when it came to expressing his feelings. So he would show it in action, like if he was sorry, or to show you that he loves you, like his actions would speak louder than his words. So, you know, so it was just things like that where I was able to just, okay, kind of forgive and let go and start on a clean slate again and try and do better as a wife. Christmas came, our very first Christmas. We managed to spend our first Christmas at my grandmother's house in Maseru West. So as would be family tradition, my cousins were all there, my aunt, my parents, my sisters would all come together. And that was the first and the last Christmas we spent together. I was married. We were together for 5 years, right? But that was the first Christmas and the last Christmas we spent together, because he felt that, no, well, your family feels like they better. So I don't feel, he didn't feel comfortable in my family space. And to accommodate him, this is when I also, okay, fine, so we won't be going home for Christmas. And for a lot of things, a lot of our family functions and events, I would have excuses, or I would go by myself. We wouldn't attend together. So, but then those are also things that I think at the time I didn't realize from a abuser's point of view, where they pull you away from your family. Because I come from a very close, tight-knit kind of family. But all of a sudden, I wasn't able to see them. You know, like we would talk on the phone and everything else, but even their visiting or coming to my house would be a case of they'd come and be at the gate to pick up my daughter, and she would visit, but not necessarily come and sit and enjoy the space. And these are things that I didn't, at the time, I didn't see, I didn't realize.
Yeah.
That these kind of things were happening, or that this is how it started. At the time, I didn't register in my mind then that was actually what was going on. So those kind of things where your family just was not there anymore. And something very interesting that my mom said to me a couple of years ago was that, because my mom's a social worker.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom deals a lot with cases of domestic violence.
Domestic violence, yeah.
My mom said that the signs were there, but as my parents, they would not be able to intervene or step in unless I said something.
Mm.
And because I was so quick to protect my husband, like I said, if we had a fight, it was clearly my fault. I mean, I was the one who was out of line. I shouldn't have. Do you understand what I mean? So I was protecting him at all times. I would not, even at work, he would pick me up from work. And if I wasn't outside by 3:00 when he came to pick me up, he would leave me. And my colleagues never understood. They'd be like, "How, Thabi, what's wrong with this guy?" Da, da, da. I'm like, "No, he's such a busy person. It's my fault. I should have been there." And then I'm still trying to hustle, texting money to go back home. Oh, call him like, please, I promise, I promise I'll wait. And sometimes I'd wait for hours, and then he'd eventually come and pick me up,
Huh?
But it was those kind of situations where you protect your abuser, you protect your perpetrator, because it's easier, I think, to just protect. Like my mom said, like, the signs were always there, but because I wasn't ready to say anything, they would not have been able to help me.
Wow.
Yeah. So there was just a lot of things that kind of happened. But I think what a lot of people, when you hear stories of abuse, a lot of people don't realize, and a lot of people ask, well, then why did you stick around? Why did you stay? And what people don't realize is that in those 5 years or 6 years of marriage and living together, it wasn't always all bad. Do you understand? We had some really, really great days. We had some really wonderful days that gave you hope and believing that after the fight we had yesterday, things are going to be all right because he loves me again today, So you just always kind of had that thing in mind that no, things will work out. And I think as well, coming from a family where my parents were and still are very much in love with each other, you grew up in an environment where we had a happy, conducive home.
Yeah.
And you aspire towards having that and having that for your child and for your children, So it's not easy to just walk out of something when you believe that something better is possible, If you just hang on, just hang in there and he'll change. No, people don't change. You need to change. So it's just those kind of things that ultimately we find ourselves sticking out hardcore abusive relationships because of.
So I think one of the first things I wanted to ask was, so when he is pulling you away from your family, obviously you're going with it because you have that protective thing about you have to protect this relationship, this marriage, and your daughter. It's very much like at the forefront for you is protection. But at what stage do you now realize that, hang on, this is not good for me, this is not healthy? Because I think it's very common for abusers in different forms, whether it's emotional, physical, mental. It's very common for abusers to isolate you because when you're alone, there's nobody to stand by you. So at what point do you realize what's happening? And once you do realize, what do you do about it?
The day that I finally realized that I needed to get out was the day I felt like I was going to kill him.
Cool.
I'd been making for dinner fish and chips. I told the story before.
Mm-hmm.
I was making fish and chips for dinner, and we had a helper who I used to put through school at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they were building up to writing exams or something like that. I can't remember, but she was struggling a lot with accounting, and she was doing very well with her other subjects. It was just accounting that she struggled with. Mm-hmm. And anybody who knows me will tell you, maths, accounting, anything that has to do with numbers, I don't do.
Yeah.
I'm a memory kind of person, not an add up kind of person, you know. So it was one of those things where I could not offer her support by saying I will help her out with her homework or anything else, because accounting was not one of my strongest subjects. But anyway, so she had a friend over who'd come over from school to help her out, who was great with accounting and stuff, right? And they were in her room, and I was getting dinner ready. I was making fish and chips for dinner that night. And he came home I think we'd had a fight during that course of the weeks, because things were still very tense between us. I remember him coming home, and then his first question was why the dogs had not been fed yet. And I said, no, it's fine. Let me just finish up here. I will go and feed them. Now, I knew the reason why he was asking was because he wanted our helper to be the one, because she would be the one who normally fed the dogs.
Yeah.
Do you understand? It was sort of her chores. But then I said, no, I'll go tend to the dogs now. Let me just finish up what I'm doing here. Mm-hmm. And then he charged and went into her room and said to her, why haven't the dogs been fed? And she said, okay, I know, I'm almost done. As soon as I'm done here, I will go feed the dogs. Mm-hmm. Now, her friend, you could tell her friend was embarrassed by the situation and just like how tense everything was. Yeah. So quickly they packed up, and she said, okay, let me just walk my friend and I'll come see you. So she walked her friend to the gate, came back and fed the dogs. And I said to him, what you did was not right, because at the end of the day, she's struggling with accounting. And if somebody's willing to give their time to help and assist this girl with her homework and stuff that we can't give her the thing for, mm-hmm. I think what you did was very unfair. And he took great offense to the tone of voice and to what I had said to him, and he came charging at me. Now, I remember I was cooking fish and chips, mm-hmm. So here's the pan, it's like got hot oil in, and the pan is like, the oil is starting to thing, and he literally grabbed me by my head and he put my head over the frying pan, and I could feel, I could feel on the tip of my nose.
Yeah.
You feel the heat.
Yeah.
And at that stage, because we're in the kitchen, I just remember, because he said, I will kill you, you know? Mm-hmm. And I remember just trying to grab for something, anything, to also, because I was trying to lift my head back, do you understand? But I also wanted, so that moment when I knew that I wanted to hurt him, as much as he's hurting me, like I felt the strength that I can and I will kill you too, if you want to kill me. That's when I knew, okay, this is not right. This is very, very dangerous. And my daughter came just at that moment and she started crying.
Sure.
And she was the only reason I believe he let me go. So that was that very first day when I said, okay, this is no longer a healthy relationship, because I'm also looking for tools to protect myself now. Physically, I'm not as strong as you, but if I can find something sharp enough, then I will dig it through you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I got to that spirit of, when I got to that spirit of brokenness, when it just kind of said to me that you don't care about this person anymore either. If you're willing to go and grab for a knife or something, that means that you are capable of so much. And in that moment in time, it just literally was a case of, okay, fine. So if I do kill him, I go to jail. If he kills me, who's my daughter left with? You know what I mean? So it's those kind of things that you get to that point of finality in your life, that aha moment where you just like, no, this is not helping, this is not working anymore. We've gone beyond the point of repair. And yeah. And I think a lot of the conversations would have where you are told you are nothing without me, you know? Those are things and statements that sometimes you end up starting to believe when you look at what this person's contribution is in your life. That when you hear something long enough, sometimes you do start to believe it, that okay, I won't be able to survive without this person. I won't be able to do anything without this person. I am worthless without this person, basically. You know, so there's a lot that happens mentally as well that actually just ultimately messes with you. And this is why sometimes you find yourself in that position of I'm stuck in it. But like I said, something does happen that will eventually trigger that moment where you have to go, where you know this is done. Yeah. There's no hope for us.
So, I mean, on the one hand, definitely, we need to try to have a situation where men don't even do these things. But I think a concern I have right now is, you know, there could be somebody watching this, and I don't want her or him, because I mean, men do get violated as well. I don't want her or him to get to a point where, like, to get to that point, and for them there might not be a daughter to come and stop them, or there might not be any form of intervention, and the person who at the time is a victim does respond, does retaliate, whereas they could have left much earlier. I'm not taking away from the difficulty of leaving, because I know how difficult it is to leave. Having been in emotionally abusive relationships, I've seen how difficult it is to leave. And I will not take away from the difficulty to leave, because as you mentioned, people will just come and say, why did you just leave? Why did you just leave? It's not that easy.
It's not that easy, no.
It's not that easy, but just in spite of it not being that easy, I guess what I wanted to ask is, you know, we mentioned that those two red flags on the first date, but also what are some internal red flags, like from your perspective, things that are happening within you that you think, okay, maybe for example, I'm beginning to lose myself, I'm losing my values, I don't know who I am anymore, I don't know who I am without this person. Like as you said, he belittled you, made you feel like you're nothing without him, where you don't have that sense of identity anymore. And even touching on, like your mom said, the signs were there, you know? So what are some of the signs that present themselves? Obviously, they're going to be different for every person, but there are some, you know, common signs, yeah. So I think that's my question is, what are some of those warning signs which are either within the relationship or within myself in the relationship that people need to look out for, especially regarding your mental health?
When you start to question yourself as an individual, when you, how do I put this? There's a term called gaslighting, right? Where your partner plays it down as if you're losing your mind, as if you're the crazy person. And no, but I saw you in the car making out with that girl, and it's like, nah, boo, it wasn't me. No, I saw you. And then you start to question and doubt yourself. Now when you're coming in and you know, like, then we have those family meetings, and later they will be there, and then everybody's gathered, and so you know, and then how Thabi jealous, jealous thing, then you're just like, no, I'm a very secure person, you know?
Yeah.
When your identity, who you know yourself to be, is put at question, and you start to question Am I being jealous? Am I really that insecure?
Yeah.
But all the things are there. That's when you need to start reevaluating certain things.
Mm-hmm.
That's my first thing, right? Because that's what he used to do a lot of, where I would see messages, I would catch him, things were there, but then it would be a case of, no, she's just a very jealous person, and it would make me look stupid and also make me start to question my own sound mind. If am I losing my mind? When a person also tells you about how useless you are, what you don't have, the family you come from, and you start, when you know very well, I come from a very dignified kind of family, but then he starts to make example and things that you didn't realize were things, but now suddenly become things in your mind.
Yeah.
So, like I said, when you told things over and over again, those kind of things also do kind of affect a lot of things. But also just when you know what love is, you know what it is to be in love, you know what it is to give love.
Yeah.
And when that same feeling that you're giving out is not reciprocated, that's when you should know that, no, but this is not how it's supposed to feel. Because you're internally, you know what's right and what's wrong. You know what love is supposed to feel like, because you've been in love before. Do you understand? So when love is no longer love, you can feel it, it's there, but it's just a case of accepting it. And this is what the struggle is, where people find themselves stuck in these relationships, hoping that they can bring a person back into love with them. If he was once in love and he's fallen out of love, there's that hope factor that you're like, okay, maybe he'll come around, he'll change, this and this and that, So there's a lot of things outside of just the physical part of things, because obviously the physical is the biggest and it's the loudest, it's the most loud factor that says get out. When a person is able to lay hands on you, violate you in a manner that your mom and dad would never do, your brother, your cousins would never do, then why would this man who claims to love you do the same thing to you? And why are you allowing it? So those kind of things are immediate triggers and red flags. And like I said, the very first day, I was physically hurt by him, but I made excuse to say I spoke hambilena, so it was my fault. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have used that tone of voice, right? But there are circumstances that eventually you see ultimately that, okay, fine, but no, this is not the way it's supposed to work. I shouldn't get slapped across the face because you feel like I'm following you around. I went to Times. At the time, it was still Times. I don't know what it is now. It's got a new name now. So at the time, it was Times Cafe, right? I went there. My friend was stuck and she needed a lift. I was minding my business. See, that's the thing. I'm like, but now I got beat down because of nothing. I was minding my business at a book club, and I got a phone call from a friend who was stranded and she needed a lift home. So I went to go pick her up, get into Times, and then she's not there. So I went upstairs into Times. I got to Times. I was parked downstairs by Kingsway. She wasn't there, so I went upstairs, and then there was my husband with a table with some other ladies, and I just said hi. I didn't even go approach anybody. I just went and said hi and nodded and carried on looking for my friend. Went back into the car, and he came after me. He came behind me, and he said, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "No, I came to look for my friend. She said I should pick her up, and now I can't find her." And then he said, "It's fine. Let me drive you home." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So we went home, and on our way home, he says, "Why are you constantly following me? What?" And I'm like, "Yo, but guy, I wasn't even there for you." Like, and so then I immediately got slapped with a backhand slap across the face, and then told to get out. Like, it's in the middle of the night. Like, it was terrible. So we're driving, and then he slapped me and he said, "Get out of my car, just get out of my car." And I'm like, what happens if I get out of your car? Like, it's dark. So when he got out the car, he slammed the door, he came towards the driver's side, and I pulled off and I drove off. But then I was like, oh, flip, what have I done? He's gonna kill me for real now, because I left him in the middle of the street as well. And then I went home and I got my helper and I took my baby and I put them in the car, and I was just like, we gotta go. I didn't know where we're going, but I just like, this man is gonna kill me, because now what I've just done is the ultimate level of disrespect. I left him in the middle of the road in the middle of the night, and I drove up in his car. Oh, there was another thing, the possession thing, because things were his. It wasn't our car, it was his car. So and then I put them into the back of the car, and just as I were about to drive off, he crawled up from out of nowhere. I didn't even see him. And then there he was in front of the car, and he's like, "Get out." Yo, I almost died. Like, I was just like, it was too much. So then I said to him, I'm going to run you over. I'm going to run you over. And he came towards the driver's door. And that's when I drove off again and I left him, you know? So it's like stuff like that where, yeah, you just, it was scary times. You don't even know how to react and respond to certain things. But you were accused of things, of just being in the wrong place at the wrong time, you know?
Yeah.
And then you get beaten up for that. That doesn't make sense. Who does that? You know, if they really love you, who does that? You know, so yeah, there's just a lot of things. But like I said, from a mental perspective, you start to question yourself. You lose your own identity. Before I got married, I was thinking about it the other day, that before I got married, and not to say that there's anything wrong with marriage. Marriage is wonderful. I mean, if I had the opportunity to get married again now, hell yeah, I'm going to get married again. You know, I'm just waiting for the right man. I'm going to pray for him, probably find him and lock him down into COVID lockdown as well, you know, teach him how to love me. But, you know, just marriage is a wonderful institution. It just needs people who respect it for what it is, who respect and love each other, and who just love each other. There's nothing wrong with marriage. I will not speak ill about it. But like I've said, and I keep saying, is that you don't want to lose yourself in what society dictates marriage should be. Do you understand? You set your own rules about what you want your marriage. You and your partner set your own rules about what your marriage is going to be based on, what it's about. The foundations are made by you guys. And also just not allowing yourself to get caught up in, because people get married for all sorts of reasons now. I mean, girls want to have the ring on the finger, but then don't understand the weight that ring carries with it. Are you ready for the responsibility? You know, just not losing your identity. The identity part is so important, and also maintaining your value. The value should be first and foremost in your heart, in your mind, of who you are. You need to know yourself. You need to know what you tolerate and what you won't tolerate, and be firm in that. You know, you need to know, I will not be treated ill. I will not be spoken to negatively or in an ugly manner. And be strong in that. Don't compromise what you consider your values for anybody. And that's what I'm saying. Your partner, in the same respect, should also respect those values. I understand that this is where my wife does not tolerate certain things. This is where my husband does not tolerate certain things. And that's how you lay down the foundations of that, when you guys are both clear in your identity. So it's very, very important. I mean, the value system is also just, you know, you need to have a firm understanding of what you bring to the table, who you are, what your expectations are, because when you lose your identity, you lose yourself. You don't know who you are. And where you find yourself sucked in and hoping for a better, and end up compromising your own value systems and your own standards just to accommodate.
Sure. Wow. So is there anything it's a lot. It's quite a lot. It really is. But I wanted to ask, is there anything else that you specifically would like to add? Maybe even say a message to ladies, not just ladies actually, to people actually out there, obviously related to the topic at hand. Is there anything that you would specifically like to say?
This is something I'd like to teach my daughter. I've got a 16-year-old who is very feisty. I think I've been very lucky to have been blessed with my father, and I think other male models in her life, my uncles, who have played a role in being father figures to her, you know, because she doesn't have a relationship with her dad. But I think I would say to her in particular, that, and in fact to women then in general, is that you're important. You are worth being loved, and don't ever settle for less than what you know you deserve. Ever. It's not easy. It's starting afresh and getting out of an abusive relationship is not an easy thing to do. But because you are capable, because you are strong enough, the fact that you walked out of an abusive relationship suggests that you are strong enough. It means that you will succeed. It means that you will be happy. You will find yourself. You will bring yourself back towards yourself. You know, but it's important to just love yourself and to just know who you are, know that you are loved, know that you're worthy of being treated right. And just, like I said, it's not an easy process stepping out. Starting all over again, because sometimes, I mean, the one thing that a lot of women find themselves stuck in abusive relationships for is the financial stability of it all. They think about their kids' school fees and who's going to carry on paying for these things and all the luxuries and all the little things that kind of make her life easier. You know, those are things that women take in consideration and take stock of before they make decisions like that. But at the end of the day, what does your happiness say above all things when you aren't in a happy environment, when you aren't in a happy relationship? Those things won't matter for much when you're in the mortuary or in your coffin or in jail. They won't matter for much. But when you do start over, there's nothing more satisfying and more gratifying than making your own purchase of something. Because when I left, I didn't want anything to do with him. I left everything that we had ever bought together, anything that I had ever bought, I left everything. I decided I'm going to start afresh. And nothing was more rewarding than buying my first set of pots or buying my first bed, buying my first fridge, you know, my first washing machine, my first microwave, because I did it for myself. Do you understand? And it won't happen overnight. It takes months and years even of hard work, but there's value in that, in the things that you consider valuable to you. And that's where you'll discover that actually it feels good to be able to do for myself and not have to be reliant on. And yes, once you've gotten to that point of healing, and because I mean, it's easier for me, I feel, to talk about this now, because this is an incident that took place 11 years ago. I mean, I've had 11 years of getting myself and pulling myself back towards myself and kind of healing that a lot of people, I mean, only now discovering. But like I'm saying, 11 years later, I am maybe not where I wanted to be in terms of where I thought I would have been a couple of years ago, but I'm definitely not where I used to be 11 years ago. I'm in a happier space. And that's where I would like to encourage women to let them know that you have the potential to start over and enjoy every single minute of this new life where you're not living in fear and not having to mind your words because you might offend someone. It's not easy, but I tell you, sweetheart, when you buy that first, that's yours, I was like, whoo, victory is mine. And my daughter said something to me the other day, which for me was, she said she was proud of me. And these things happened. My child was like 5 years old, but she still has trinkets of memory of things that, remember that day when da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Do you understand? She was a child. Let us not take for granted what our kids see, because our children, as young as we think they are very cognizant, are very, very aware of the things that are happening in their environment, especially when those are things that make them feel uneasy and unsafe. Those things stay with them. I'm just very grateful right now that my daughter has managed to become a really strong kind of woman, a young woman. She's becoming, you know, she's set in her own mind where she wants to be. She's identified the things that she wants to do. And I'm so grateful to God that there are no daddy issues per se. Well, at least that haven't stemmed up right now. Do you understand? But she is a strong-willed, mentally strong, emotionally strong young girl. And I'm excited about what her future is going to be like. I'm excited to, I'm excited for her because I just really feel like she's going to have a really great life. And I think just hearing my story and her being able to remember certain parts of my story, she's able to also identify that I don't want that either. The next guy that's going to love me is going to love me better than my dad loved my mom. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah. Labels.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. So I think to conclude now, I'd just like to sort of delve a little deeper into what you touched on, which is just how this happened 11 years ago, and much as you're not where you thought you'd be, you're in a much better space than you were back then. Take us through that. Like, where are you now mentally, and how are things now? And I mean, you come out and you share your story. And you share it like, you really do share your story. You share some details which some might feel like, how is she able to do that? So you're here now. Things seem to be much greater. Do tell us about that.
I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Amen.
I found God. No, seriously. I think for me, okay, so coming back home, the day I came home after all of that, coming back home and for the first time being able to sit down with my parents and tell them the truth, because they could see, they saw the telltale signs were there. They said, Thabi, do you want to talk about it? I'm like, no, I'm fine. Thabi, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. But that day when I finally sat down and I said, guys, this is the story, I felt a weight off of my shoulders. Like I could finally breathe again. It was like, whew, and then I slept after that for like 3 days because I think my body went into shock. Like, what have you done? Okay, so what happens from here? What's the plan? Do we have a plan? We don't have a plan. I went into major panic. I was like,
oh no. Yeah.
Like stress and hypertension. I didn't know those things existed. All of a sudden, it was ding, ding, ding. I was like, what's happening here? Anyway, I think so. After that was obviously the panic kind of sets in because now you're not too sure what next, right? But waking up 3 days later, because I remember I slept just to go to the bathroom, and I didn't even eat in those 3 days. My daughter would come into the bedroom, she'd come sneak a peek, give me a hug, wipe my tears, and then she'd go back and watch TV or something. Do you understand? And then when I finally got up 3 or 4 days later, I went back to work. I went back to work because I felt I refuse to stop living. I have a responsibility as a radio presenter to my listeners. And I've always done that, where even when still being married, like my husband knew not to talk to me before I went on air in the morning. So I remember one morning he had gone out for the entire weekend. Monday morning, he decided to drive through, and the car from work that picked me up in the mornings at 5 o'clock to take me to work had just arrived, and he was just arriving as I was going out. And I told him, don't talk to me because I refuse to take on air my baggage. My listeners don't deserve that. So I had a responsibility to my listeners to continue, and the show must go on. There's no way I'm going to be defeated by this one individual, and I will come out strong. So I had a determination in mind that said to me that you will come out stronger. I will say that, like I said, it's not an easy mission because obviously for the longest time I had to move back into my parents' house. And moving back into your parents' house after you've been married is not like you're a child in your parents' house. You'll always be a child in your parents' house. Love our parents to this, bless them, but we'll always be children in their eyes. And sometimes it just becomes difficult, but also just learning to humble yourself to a point that says, okay, I know you guys only have my best interest at heart, you know? So gradually with time, I was able to, job opportunities also came by, moved to Joburg for a bit, moved to Bloom. I'm now in Durban. I'm living in Richards Bay now. I started a company in 2014, my own business. I'm still in radio, like, you know, like how I quit radio every third year and then I come back to it because radio is like you can't let go of radio.
Can't,
that's back forever. You know? What do you do if you don't do radio? So I've managed to, you know, just like I'm doing life over again. I've been given a second chance, and I'm living my life differently in terms of just my focus is different. My focus is not on making my marriage work. It's on making on me work. It's on making life for my daughter easier. It's just a bit about being just a better person, a better mom, just more fulfilled in life. And I'm a lot more selfish. I feel like I'm a lot more selfish. I'm not. I'm a lot more selfish. It's about me. My life is about me right now.
I love it. Wow. Well, thank you very much. So that's the end of today's episode of It's Normal, but it's not the end of the interview, as I said at the beginning. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about, I'd like us to discuss ways of doing better, right?
Yeah.
As the name of the show. And I think there's no better place to start than with men,